Hi there guys, it's Fofox, and welcome to another episode of the Patch Notes. This is the Shadow Isles patch, the update to Twisted Treeline. That is exciting stuff. A lot of people have been asking for an update on this 3v3 map because they find it to be a lot of fun, just it was lacking. So, the update is here, filled with new content, and they completely redid the entire 3v3 map with the jungle and the new boss and new items to go with it. It's a complete change. So definitely something to check out. I'll link you guys to the page in the description below. You guys can check it out there. I'm not going to describe too much what has changed in Twisted Treeline because that would be better for someone who has played the 3v3 map. Myself, I haven't played it, so we will let that be. I will link you in the description below to the page, and we'll let it go there. I would love to talk to you guys, though, about the champion updates, because this is a big one. There have been a lot of champions that have been very concerning to a lot of the player base, and this update fixes a great deal. So, let's get started. First on the list is Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank has been an issue for a little while, but his base health was reduced to 518 from 568, and his health per level was reduced to 95 from 100. For Blitzcrank, this just means that he's going to be a little bit squishier. A little bit. I mean, 518 is nothing to scoff at as far as health goes, but he still has the ability to pull. He still hits just as hard. They haven't messed with his damages. They haven't messed with anything of the sort. They have simply made him a little bit less sustainy for someone with absolutely no sustain, if that makes any sense. Evelynn. Evelynn's Agony's Embrace ability power ratio was reduced to 1% per every 100 ability power from 1% every 50 ability power. This is a massive nerf to Evelynn, but I don't really think it's completely unjustified. I mean, we're here to take a look at what these changes mean for champions, and as far as Evelynn goes, I think this change will put her, it may put her a little low, but it also might be just right. That 50% reduction isn't going to be, well, it is a heavy hit. Let's not skirt around the bush. It is a heavy hit to Evelynn. It really makes it so that her burst potential is significantly lower, especially when she's using her ultimate. But she needed it, to be honest. With that massive ability power ratio, this is percentages we're talking about. This is not reduced damage based on, you know, oh, it deals 500 magic damage. No, this is percentage of health. This tears at tanks, at squishies, it does not matter what. So having the fact that she had a massive percent of health kill on her ultimate really needed to come down a little bit. She was instant killing people, especially with Deathfire's Grasp, but we'll get there. Azrael. Azrael's Essence Flux no longer reduces enemy champion attack speed. Wow, I cannot stress enough how much this was needed. Azrael as a champion did everything better than every other AD carry. He was an anti-AD carry, AD carry. In essence, what he ended up doing was he stagnated lanes because you could not really face an Azrael unless you were playing as someone like Corki or Graves or, you know, I mean, you could play the other champions like Vayne, but then the minute you get hit by his W, you had to disengage. You just had to. Disengaging from an Azrael is extraordinarily hard when he has his arcane shift up. I mean, you just can't really do it. So in essence, this is a really, really good nerf to Azrael. Something that will, it'll stop him from being the #1 AD carry. Granted, he will still be strong. Don't take this as being, oh my god, Azrael's dead. No, he's not dead. Azrael is simply less annoying now. I mean, he's tolerable. Yes, he still has long-ranged poke. He is an incredibly good duelist if you're good at skill shots. If you land everything, he still does the same amount of damage. There is no damage reduction on him. They are just making it so that the champions you attack can attack back. And that was one of the most needed things for Azrael. Jace. Jace's Thundering Blow no longer deals any flat base damage, but, now here's the kicker, it still deals a % of your max health damage and has a bonus attack damage ratio that increases that percentage. As well, with Thundering Blow, the stun on it will no longer last beyond the knockback's duration. So occasionally what you would see is you would see Jace use that really, really hard hitting disengage ability, and then all of a sudden they would just sit there because they couldn't move. I mean, the stun would randomly last a little longer, and that would allow him to easily catch up if he didn't have his leap. If he had his leap, he was going to catch up anyways, but it was still rather annoying. And on Jace, Acceleration Gate costs increased to 50 from 30. This will help make him a little bit less sustainy, which he kind of needed. His poke was ridiculous, and the damage has not been changed on it. You know, he still does that massive amount of damage with that poke. That wasn't really the issue. The issue was that he was able to do it so quickly and so constantly, you could not do anything with it. Poke comps with Jace were scary as all get out because he just never really ran out of mana. So this will make it so he lasts a little. He can't do that as much. Still, 20 mana, cumulative over time, it'll make a difference, but if you're just getting into a fight, it's really not that big of a deal. Leona, they fixed her Shield of Daybreak's cooldown to now match the tooltip. For the longest time, the cooldown never matched the tooltip, and it was a little bit misleading. It didn't really affect it, but it was misleading. So this is a great update, and this is great for Leona, considering she really needs Shield of Daybreak. Mordekaiser, they just fixed a bug on him that allows him to properly damage wards now with Maze of Spades. Poppy is the same way, where they fixed her Devastating Blow, which now damages wards properly. That's good. Rengar, here we go, folks. Rengar, the Pride Stalker. He has been an issue ever since they gave him his quality of life buffs. He needed this. I mean, there was no beating around the bush on this one. Rengar needed this nerf. He really did. He was one-shotting and two-shotting people, for Christ's sake. It was not good. So, his base health regeneration has been reduced from 4 to 8 to make him a little less sustainy, because, let's admit, Rengar top, you know, he can heal infinitely. His heal regeneration per level was reduced to 0.4 from 0.8, so they have that as well. His Bone Tooth Necklace, which is one of his big items. You know, it's a big ticket item, something you get when you expect to scale. No longer grants a base plus 10 attack damage. It was essentially giving you a Doran's Blade for it. But this Doran's Blade had the ability to scale a lot. So that'll be good for bringing Rengar down just a smidge. But this is the kicker that's really going to make it so that he's more balanced. Now, whether he's completely balanced or not, we'll see. But as of now, Savagery empowered attack damage ratio, okay, has been reduced to 2 from 2.5. This half, if you will, is going to make a pretty big difference. Now, Rengar is still going to hit hard. You know, an empowered attack is still going to deal double that ratio, you know, of what you're normally doing. It's a lot. Don't get me wrong. It is a lot of damage. But 2.5 was way too much. So, they brought it down. Thrill of the Hunt, which is Rengar's ultimate, also had the stealth duration reduced to 5 seconds from 7, making it so that he couldn't... He was coming in from lane extraordinarily far away, and unless you were really deep warding for him, there wasn't really a way to see him. Unless you were smart enough to buy pinks in your lane, but we won't go into that. Cooldown was also increased on Thrill of the Hunt to 140, 105, and 70 from 120, 85, and 50. They really increased the cooldown on this baby. It was because he could either escape pretty much instantly from most teams. You know, unless he was around in oracles or you had a pink on you at that time, you weren't able to catch him. And then later game, when escaping didn't make all that much of a difference, his initiation was just, it was constant. It was like, well, every 50 seconds you have an invisible Rengar coming up right on you. So, I think the increased cooldown is really good. Rengar is still going to be a strong champion. I mean, think Nocturne. Nocturne was hit a little while back with his cooldowns on his jump and so on and so forth, but he's still one of the best junglers. Rengar is still going to be a good champion, but we will see. What I want to see, what will come of this, is if people will take him and saying, oh, he's weak now, or saying that he's not quite up to par, when this really hasn't been that huge of a nerf. Skarner. Skarner was nerfed in this patch. His crystalline exoskeleton cooldown was increased to 18 seconds from 14. That's fair. Skarner was able to pretty much have a constant speed boost. It was almost an on-demand, to be honest. And this little cooldown increase, it's not going to kill Skarner, but it's not going to, it does hurt him. How much? We'll see. His gank potential still the same. He's just as fast. He shouldn't be using Crystal Skeleton unless he's dangerously low in the jungle or he's ganking or running up on someone. You know, he uses it for the speed boost or he uses it for the survivability. It's not that huge of a shield, so the survivability, especially late game, is... It's alright. It's enough to keep him alive, but it's really the speed boost he's looking for to initiate, to get that champion with his ultimate and drag him backwards. Speaking of that ultimate, though, his Impale will no longer finish casting if the target escapes the range during the cast time. This was one of the most annoying things about facing a Skarner, was that even if you had that split-second reaction time, where you're like, oh my god, it's Skarner. He's in my lane. Run. And you get just to the edge, and you're like, he's gonna get me, and you flash. It would still grab you, and then it would drag you back the flash distance, plus whatever he dragged you backwards. It wasted your flash, and it pulled you, and you died. You died instantly, because there's no way, in essence, unless you are a really escapable champion, to get out of that. You get pulled into a team by Skarner, you are toast, because you are an automatic target. I think this was needed. His ultimate lacked a great deal of counterplay. You in essence, you either ran and slowed him, or you had a QSS. The QSS was one of the best options. Running and slowing him, it only works a little bit. He's not exactly kiteable because his exoskeleton it's strong enough so that he can get hit by a slow and still keep moving afterwards. And it lasts long enough to be able to most of the time. It lacked a lot of counterplay, his ultimate did. So, I'm glad to see that they're doing this, especially because Flash was essentially a waste of time. I mean, it was a waste to use it if a Skarner was on you, because you would just get drugged backwards. So, good to see. Skarner players are going to disagree with me on this and say, oh, well, God, that was one of the most entertaining things to do. But you have to think about it not just from an entertainment point. You have to think about it from the point of, okay, you know, is there counterplay to my champion? And in essence, there was a little bit, but not that much. Sona was nerfed in this one, but just a little. Base health was reduced to 410 from 450. Okay, I'm not going to say that's just a little. That's a fair amount, especially at level 1. You're going to be squishy. And Sona is already squishy, and now she is, like, super squishy, because they also reduced her base armor to 9 from 11. I understand why they did this. Freak and Morello have come out and explained multiple times why this has been, and every time they have said, this is because she is so safe that when you get to her, you really should be able to do a lot. And you weren't able to. So, we'll see if this is too big of a hit. It's not looking to be that massive. Yes, it hurts her early game, but her poke is still the same. Her healing is still the same. She is fast as all get out with the right boots and her movement speed. I mean, you cannot escape a Sona. So, we'll see what this does. I do not see it being that big of an issue. I see her being a little squishier, but her poke is still insane, so that should keep her in line. Syndra. Syndra has received a good bit here. So, let's take a look at this one by one. Force of Will now grabs the nearest dark sphere in range if no valid target is selected. This is really nice, because if you were Syndra, you had to go over a minion or a dark sphere, and then you had to cast it where you wanted, so this will help decrease that time. Grab time reduced to 0.25 from 0.3, also good for her, increases her responsiveness. The throw commands given during the grab time now execute immediately as it finishes, so this makes it so she has a little bit of prediction she has to do, but it'll help out with getting that smoothness that Syndra really needed. They also fixed a bug with Force of Will where minions and dark spheres being pulled could get stuck on terrain. That would suck. Getting pulled and it was like, oh, a wall. Crap. Scatter the Weak. Dark spheres that have nearly finished casting will now get knocked back once they arrive. That's it. It's good to see. It is. It's gonna help out her stuns, and it'll really assist with the way that Syndra plays. And they also fixed a bug where units hit by both Scatter the Weak and an affected dark sphere would be knocked back but not stunned. They really needed to fix that. She relies on that stun, and it's so hard to do, because just a little bit off on that angle and that ball is going to miss. So it's a very, very high skill cap that Syndra has, but also it should be rewarding, and that bug really made it so it wasn't. Her ultimate. They fixed something glorious on her ultimate. Spell shields will now only block a single sphere rather than the entire spell. This is good. This is amazing, because what was happening is she was going up against champions like Nocturne, and she was going up against Sivir, as well as Banshee's Veil. And that spell shield was just taking her ultimate and dumping it, rather than, you know, one sphere getting blocked and then the rest hitting. It used to be just like, oh, fail. So, fixing it so that spell shields now only take the first single sphere that hits them is fantastic. This is amazing. This will help her a ton, especially, you know, for people trying to abuse it and saying, oh, well, it's Syndra, we just build this one item and she can't ult you. That doesn't lack, that's not really counterplay. That is specifically countering a champion outright and not giving them a chance to use it. Granted, yes, you could pop the spell shield with something else, but this is a great quality of life update. She needed this. Unleashed Power now also pulls in spheres cast just before the start of Unleashed Power. So what it was doing is it was taking a little bit of lag time between the spheres that were sitting around you and the spheres that you currently had available. Now, if you cast a sphere directly before you use Unleashed Power, that sphere will be pulled and thrown at the champion, increasing her damage. So, it's good. Unleashed Power, they fixed a bug where Unleashed Power would go on cooldown if the target died before the cast animation completed. They needed to fix that, and it's real. I'm glad Riot did, because without this being fixed, even if the target was like, and ult, and they died, nothing went out. It should have fizzled. It didn't. It died. And so did your ultimate. So, great fixes on Syndra. We'll see if she becomes a little bit more useful here. Hopefully so. That's what they're hoping for with this one, is that she starts becoming a little more viable. And I agree with them. Tristana! This is good news. Tristana's explosive shot cast range now matches her attack range. This includes increasing per level due to her passive, Draw a Bead. She needed this one, because early game, it felt okay to be able to use the explosive shot cast range on him. Be like, oh, you know, here's 110 damage over time. A shield could block it. A heal could be reduced by it, but still heal part of it back. But with late game, it became an issue because she couldn't use it, especially against healing champions who were at her max range, where she was saying, okay, I need to bombard this person, but I need to stop them from healing. She would then have to go in and risk getting hit hard. And Tristana's pretty squishy as it is. So, a good one to see. Also, Tristana players are going to be happy about this one. Rocket Jump is now more reliable when used around terrain. I mean, we're talking a massive buff here. This is absolutely incredible. Now you may think, Fox, that's not a buff, that's a fix. No, this is a buff, because it has been ages since this thing has been clunky since the beginning of LoL, and now they are fixing it. It is now a buff. She is now able to finally jump walls that you would have thought you'd have been able to jump, but just went straight up, straight down, and died. So, it is amazing. Thank you, Riot. I cannot say this enough. Thank you. That is incredible. Tristana players are cheering to the high heavens right now. Rocket jump is less clunky. Now, I'm not going to say it's completely, unclunky now, if that was a word. But it's less now. So, hooray. Buster Shot mana cost reduced to 100 from 140. That's incredible, because she had one of the only ultimates that was like 150 mana to 140 mana left on the AD carries. Most of them were reduced down to 100-ish. Tristana now joins them. Trundle, there we go. We're moving on to everybody's favorite troll. Rapid Bite mana cost decreased from 40 to 30. This is good for Trundle, a good quality of life buff. His Rapid Bite, he had to use it so often that he would ohm very quickly. He was almost more blue reliant than Amumu was. And this will help him. A little bit, albeit, but it's a help. And Contaminate's cast animation no longer locks Trundle out of using other abilities. Quite handy. We'll just leave it there. Twisted Fate. Pick a card now properly damages wards. Yep. It seems that they're doing mostly just, these on-hit abilities, such as Twisted Fate and Poppy, that were mentioned with these wards. Apparently they were glitched. So, it's a good fix. Moving on to items here, guys. Ward skins, they are now available. So, enjoy. Have fun with the ward skins. I think they're purchasable on a weekly basis, is the way that it was described. So, if you really like a ward skin by the end of the harrowing, purchase like a year's worth and see what happens. You can use them. They're unlimited so long as you own that week. Unlocking a ward skin allows you to use it in-game for the next 7 days. Multiple weeks can be stacked. When activated in-store, ward skins cosmetically change both sight and vision wards. So there you go. Deathfire's Grasp no longer grants cooldown reduction. This ability... this item has been an issue, and I agree with Morello that it was just an incredibly overpowered item, but at the same time, you purchased it for that amazing active, so it was kind of a trade-off, but it had a little bit too much. It was way too cost-effective. No longer grants cooldown reduction. Okay, the base damage was reduced to 15% of current health from 25. That is good. The synergy that percent had with several different champions, Evelynn, was foolishly strong. It really was. So reducing this down so that it has a lower base is going to help out earlier. But on the same note, ability power ratio increased to 5% per 100 from 4%. It's not going to be as much. Let's just say it how it is. You're not going to be able to do as much damage with a Deathfire's Grasp as you would have been able to previously. No matter how much ability power, unless you're able to get like 1,000 ability power, then you might be able to catch up to what it was able to. But your average mage ends up around, I believe it's 600 ability power or something like that, depending on how squishy they want to be. So, you're gaining 30%, that's 50%. Yeah, not 45%, I can do math. That's 45% of a target's health. That is a lot late game. But earlier, it does less. So, good to see. It needed it. Its synergy was a little bit too much. It was kind of the best buy item. You just purchased it because you could. That's honestly what you did. Phage. Phage's slow duration was decreased to 2 seconds from 2.5, and the slow from ranged attacks was decreased to 20% from 30%. This was specifically because of a lot of the bottom laners. It really was. I mean, you have people who purchased it like Jarvan and, you know, AD needily love to purchase Trinity Force. But honestly, this was bottom laners who did this. Azrael and Corki, when they got a phage proc, would engage, and unless you had a jump, you were not getting out of that fight. The slow was so great, and the time between when the slow would start and when the slow would end caused it so you were perma-slowed once you were hit once. This is really good to see. That applies to Trinity Force as well. Slow for ranged attack was reduced to 25% from 35%. So, I mean, it's slightly more than phage would give you, but it's slightly less than the initial before the patch. So, good to see. Great update. Thank you, Riot. Cannot say enough there. Frozen Mallet. They fixed a bug with it, saying the slow duration now correctly lasts for 2.5 seconds instead of 2. That's great to see, considering it used to last nowhere near as long as phage. Hextech Sweeper, new recipe, amplifying tome plus Kindle Gem. Total gold cost, 1435, ability power reduction, and the active was increased to 10 seconds from 6. Good to see. Hextech Sweeper is a Dominion specific, and that's not where my area of expertise is, so good change. Not sure what it's going to affect. Alrighty guys, that is the patch notes for the champions and the items for the Shadow Isles update. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to post them in the comment section below, and I would gladly love to look through them. But otherwise, we will see you guys next time. My name is Fofox. Enjoy your day.